issued a stay-at-home order. There's still no plan for a national mandate.
All right, 9:30. We get a lot of comments about the situation with the public schools, and we're going to bring our education reporter Adriana Cotero onto the show. Good morning, Adriana.
Good morning, guys.
Hi. We miss you.
I know, I miss you guys. I listen, I'm like, I could be right there.
Yeah, long time no see.
I know, a very long time. But yeah, so I know a lot of people have been asking about schools, and we recently just talked to Deputy Superintendent Joe Sanchez, who's been kind of spearheading as far as making a plan in place if school does close. Now, it hasn't been determined yet that they will be closing. They said that as of right now, it's still under review and they're still considering it. But the closure is until April 13th, of course. And they shared their proposal recently this week with the parent-teacher organization should the closure extend past the April 13th.
And I think that's what kind of generated a lot of discussion is that people know that they've entertained the idea of these plans, what they're going to do. And situation A, situation B, or whatever. So that I think that's what's leading to a lot of people asking about it is that, and I saw John Fernandez, something he put on Twitter was like, we're making plans. We haven't, implemented them, but we are making plans. So can you tell us a little bit more about those plans?
Yeah, so the plan that they just recently announced that was to the PTO was that for kindergarten to 8th grade, their existing third quarter grades would stand for the year. So if they decide to end school early, then whatever grade they have for their third quarter grade, that's their grade. And then for high school, I guess it's a little different because you have AP classes, honors classes, and a lot of times they have those different credits, and I guess they also have service learning hours that they would have to also get a request by Guam leaders to have that requirement waived. So for high schoolers, it's also the third quarter grade that will stand for the semester. But if a student's failing a class, then they would basically give them the benefit of the doubt and let them have like a blanket 60%. So they receive the credit at the very least for that particular class.
60%, what is that? Is it a D? Is that a...
Yeah.
60% got me a whooping. That's what 60% is.
From when I remember, I had a few 60%, but they were passing.
Yeah, 60% was like, you better trash that report card. Don't come home with it.
But so they received the credit still because they could have been failing the class. But, it does also draw the question because they still had a couple of months. So sometimes you think, a final exam could bring that grade up even higher if you really, really studied. So, I mean, we'll see what they actually end up deciding on. But that is their plan in place right now. And then for students who are taking AP classes or honors classes, they get an additional 10% because with those classes, whatever grade they get in, it's usually a 10% is added because it's an honors class.
Mm-hmm. Adriana, knowing all the information and being in constant contact with officials in the Guam Department of Education, how close would you say they are to making a decision on pulling the plug on the rest of the school year?
See, I even asked that question. I asked Deputy Superintendent Sanchez if we would be hearing something within these next few weeks or where they're leaning towards. He said it was tough to say, but he did say, and I know that we know that other schools are doing the exact same thing already. So we know that the CNMI has already done that. We know many schools in the mainland have been doing that as well. So if we're kind of following suit with that, then it seems that it could be, but I don't want to say it yet because, school, we don't know, but I think that there may be a decision before the April 13th deadline, considering that they're already throwing these proposals out and also talking to Guam leaders.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed that it would be cool to have the superintendent actually be in one of these press briefings that the governor has, so that people, because that is like one of the number one questions aside from the federal assistance and what are people going to do in the interim before the federal assistance kicks in. Well, we constantly get that. What's happening with schools? So I really appreciate you continuing to stay on top of what's happening within GDOE, and that's just GDOE. There are also private schools where we need to get updates from. But hopefully this will be taken into consideration when they have their press briefings going forward. But in the meantime, your interview with the deputy superintendent. I believe it's up now on our Facebook page. So we encourage people that are listening on the radio or watching this live stream to go onto our Facebook page and click it, and you'll get the latest information, because that interview, I think you just did that interview this week.
Yep,
So,
just a couple days ago. And also, they launched the distance learning website, which I know you guys have mentioned on the radio as well. But just so people know that those lesson plans, they're not graded. So Deputy Superintendent Sanchez had mentioned that too, that even though they are going to be providing weekly lessons from educators, as of right now, they are not going to be graded, and they're not part of any grading for the school year.
So they're chalking it up to enrichment, right? Is how they're putting it.
Exactly. Keep kids occupied and continue learning.
But hey, if you parents want to, put a little pressure on the kids and tell them it is graded, no one's going to sue you for that. Adriana, what can you tell us about Grab and Go? I know we had the soup on a couple days ago. Are they looking at increasing the number of meals? We had a call from a guy who had went to pick up a meal. They run out.
Yeah,
they ran out. Yeah. So the last I heard, they were at 12,000 meals a day, and before their goal was 15,000. So quite possibly they could have reached that number then if they ran out, but they still have the 11 sites, and they have also added breakfast into their Grab and Go meals. So, and it's still at the same time you pick it up. So it's from 11 to 1, and you get breakfast and lunch at the same time.
All right.
And I know that Superintendent had mentioned that he wanted to get more locations and do it more inside the villages. So that was something they were going to work on, especially if there's a prolonged closure to the end of the year. I'm hoping to get him today to get some further updates and an interview. I had already messaged him, so we'll see if I can get him and get further updates. But their goal was 15,000.
Right.
They were, if early on they were already reaching 12,000, then yeah, they might have surpassed it. And these aren't just for public school students; they're for all students on the island.
Right. Any child, regardless of public or private or homeschool or whatever, go and eat.
Exactly. So I think when they designated that 15,000 number, they were probably looking at their public schools and taking averages from their lunches.
Right.
So now that there's all students across the island coming, then I'm sure there is a high likely chance that they are going to have more than 15,000.
Right. I'm waiting for the governor to declare the Guam DOE staff and all the volunteers helping out. It's an interagency effort. Would really like to see them be declared heroes, because they are out there, and they are just, this service is...
the nurses, the school nurses out there too on the front line. Right.
So, GDOE, you're right, Bria. It's interesting that they don't fold the Superintendent John Fernandez into the mix, because the schools are a huge part of what's going on.
All right.
Okay, Adriana.
Well, thanks, Adriana.
Thank you so much.
You guys.
Wash your hands.
Stay home.
All right. Bye, guys. Thanks for listening in.
Thanks.
All right.
Okay.
Take care.
Hey, great job, Adriana Cotero. Let's go right over to Nestor Lecanto, who's been following this situation with the Theodore Roosevelt, really before it even became a situation on Guam. Ness, you were so ahead of the curve. I just want to, pat you on the back. Great job. Great reporting on this issue.